Hi there, and welcome to the Data Talks podcast. I'm Māra, part of the Curatorial team at the Architekturmuseum of the Technical University of Munich, and the team behind this series. At Data Talks, we explore the often hidden architectures of data infrastructures and ask why they matter to us as professionals, educators, and citizens. In our episodes, we look at how the digital shapes our spaces, from energy-hungry server halls to classrooms, and from busy streets to the networks of our minds. These episodes were recorded in winter 2023 during a seminar at TU Munich. If this sparks your interest, come see us in person in Munich too. Starting October 15th, this research and much more will be on display at the exhibition City in the Cloud, Data on the Ground at the Pinakothek der Moderne. And Data Talks will be subsequently updated with new episodes from the upcoming public program. So, keep in touch and have fun listening. Hello and welcome to the next episode of our podcast. My name is Māra and today I'm going to guide the discussion about the importance of data in architecture. The participants of today's talk are for you already well-known members of our dear podcast crowd, Ani, Geraldus, Ulrich, Rosa and Damjan. We have all had the chance to spend most of our daily lives in a strong connection with education spaces and curriculums. That's why we are now using the chance to finally act as experts on our own. In this episode, we are going to talk about the characteristics of a contemporary classroom and the design of the future education. How can we as architects participate in the process of production and transfer of knowledge? Are there any smart ways to implement technology in our education spaces? And what does it all have in common with Star Wars? These and other topics we are going to discuss in our nice seminar room at the Technical University of Munich today. You are welcome to join us.
Hello and welcome to the future of education. Our school is not just well ventilated and lighted, this is also a smart classroom. It doesn't look like much of a classroom, right? I guess you're more used to the situation where the teacher leads all the activities. But you'll get used to it, just like I did.
A girl with a tablet in her hands, wearing a t-shirt with a print saying Education Estonia, is confidently walking us through her vast classroom and with the help of holograms explaining how her learning routine in the space looks like. The futuristic vibe of this video from Education Estonia initiative makes us believe the future is already there. We get to see a big space divided in many zones, each devoted to a specific learning activity. Students are surrounded not only by furniture or posters, but also laptops, game sets, and robots. Seems almost like some kind of new generation Jetsons-style dream. The future of education seems promising. I mean, what could go wrong?
现在，想象我们眉心有一点柔和的光芒绽放。
In case if you, similarly to myself, are not familiar with Chinese, this means now imagine a warm light glowing between your eyebrows. That is how a class in Chinese school is starting. Time for meditating. That's great. We just need to keep in mind that this warm light we are talking about is not abstract or metaphorical. It is coming from headbands that they are wearing. China has long ago set the goal to become world's leader in artificial intelligence technologies, and these headbands are one of the digital surveillance tools they are adopting. They contain sensors that in real time monitor students' interaction and concentration levels during the class. School says it wasn't hard to get parents' consents for enrolling into this experiment. So I wanted to start by asking my classmates, what are their thoughts about these videos and the different scenarios our education could face in the future?
I mean, now simplistically speaking, education is like a method to actually include people or include younger generations into the running societies, right? So, and then the societies is now differentiated into many parts of skills. So some take care of the economy, some take care of the artistic parts. For sure, for taking part in this running society, then we need like this basic attitudes, right? So this openness, because we know that many sectors are changing, and we have to kind of always adapt to it. Like alone, let's say in architecture, in 10 years ago, we used like different methods of working than today, and so on.
Although both videos were very much about marketing or about kind of selling some product, obviously, that lies behind this kind of nicely edited video, I think the main thing that really struck me, besides the problems with surveillance and 24/7 kind of observation of your thoughts, which is very scary, is the lack of playfulness in the system where these AI tools come into the education. So the children were suddenly put into an enormous pressure to perform because they're monitored all the time. Whereas maybe if you compare the Estonian model of these different spaces that are very differentiated by activity that's taking place, whether it's one-on-one meeting, whether it's a group work, whether it's kind of like a reading room, whether it's I don't know if they call it action room, but there was like a different names to all these spaces, and there was certain playfulness there. So the kids were also invited to go into the different spaces and take different kind of movement, even take different attitudes, take different actions. So the space and what you're doing as a student was very much linked, which I have to say, liked. I think it's a very interesting example that is very spatial. So it's very architectural. You know, obviously, to produce that kind of space, you need to work closely with architects or with interior designers. So there's a lot of design there. Whereas in the other example, with the AI, I'm much more skeptical. Because all of these qualities were suddenly absent. It was very traditional looking school and very traditional looking classroom that was just being heavily monitored. You cannot put all of these things on same level. I think they're very different. Whether we talk about the space that it's been augmented and the experience, the playfulness, the learning experience, or we're talking about monitoring success and putting pressure. It's a very different approach to learning.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the first thing I thought about is, and I mean, maybe that's a bit serious, but how will it be comparable, or how do you check or know what you learn? Like some students learn, some students not. How will they also on a social level be together kind of because the classroom for me, it's still a space, like a built space where children of same age or maybe also different ages could meet, then also be together as a social thing.
Yeah, right. But there's also this really important social role.
I mean, and I think because that's like the flipped classroom, or this advanced smart classroom, also the Lernhaus, for example, Lernhaus concept Munich that we have, where you have like this multifunctional space and then a classroom space, but you always have this classroom still. You also have another space where you can go and where you interact more, but I think that's kind of a maybe good approach to have this mixed option of a more organized room and then also a free moving multifunctional space maybe.
Yeah, it's somehow the organization is really the part that starts to get like missing for me, those really speculative approaches, because mostly they go in such a direction that they start to glorify this digital so much. They even start to make those strange graphs with random, I don't know, zeros and ones coming from your mind and something like that, thinking that they somehow depict the way we learn or we think. But sometimes it really feels that we miss the point that we are humans, not computers. In that part, I'm really like thinking, what are the skills that we need for our future?
I mean, that's exactly the thing. Also, the comparability kind of gets lost at some point, but also the other way around. Like when we watched the video from AI in Chinese classrooms, and all of a sudden the kids really are like an experiment, and they're just putting EEG on them, where like neuroscientists say it doesn't even work. Or if you're just a little bit sin, yeah, I mean they didn't know. So, and what kind of comparison do you put children? Also, parents can check every score from every student, from every child, seeing in which average their child is and pushing them to get better and better. And I think that's always the thing nowadays, that we're trying to do it in a more individual and innovative way, but somehow it also gets more comparable and more about pressure.
So I think like if we introduce those robotics and artificial intelligence components into the early education for younger generations, I think it's already good start. But the question is how. So the surveillance method that we see in the Chinese method is not really helping, or actually maybe mirroring the societal situations there, right? Because I think it's a society where everything is kind of enforced top down. Even innovations are kind of very much government regulated and government motored. In comparison to what we have in Europe, it's much more different. And here, it's you basically can do whatever you want to do, and it's reflected as well in the way we educate people. And then we all think also generally that this kind of surveillance method is wrong. I think it reflects that it is not the way that it's supposed to be done.
But I mean, it's interesting, just controversial idea. I'm not saying it's what I'm thinking, but I mean, if we go further that way, where does it lead us? Then there's some countries that are forcing this on the younger generation, creating maybe not happy kids, but very pressured and knowledge specialized generations. And then if we as Western or in Europe or something are doing this openness, and everybody is kind of losing everything and everything's chaos, and you're creating a different world, how will that, I don't know, develop in a also international, interconnected world? How can this work? So shouldn't there be some parallels maybe, or some connections already? I think, like you said, conservative, but I think structure is a very, very important point in education somehow.
Yeah, and when I read more about all those approaches, how to learn and how they afterwards say and show in the results what are the outcomes, it was of course like one point is this really important understanding that a lot of people lack about in the importance of soft skills in this digital world. That you should actually be learning a lot more about communicating. Just like creating, not so much about learning direct facts and performing in the best possible way, because those are the things that digital tools could do better anyway. But there is also this other side that actually is shown, that you need to be really, really cautious with the way you introduce playfulness, because sometimes there were quite a lot of data as well that if you don't really know what you're doing, but just give kids computers and AI and VR and everything, they just not learn. They play, but there is this learning part missing. And that was also one point I wanted to ask you, maybe also remembering from yourself always learning here and the university and before in schools. How you feel about the importance, how to mix those ways of dealing with education.
I mean, I think it's very interesting because when I really need to learn, I think there's a reason that so many people go into a library or to go into like a space with no distractions. So I think for me personally, when I really need to learn and focus on something, it's still like a library or somewhere where I don't get distracted. And then maybe for education, I don't know, we should distinguish between the soft skill part, which I think it's interesting to combine this with the playfulness, and then to connect the, I don't know, hard facts, let's say, or the knowledge, really like knowledge part. Maybe this should still be like a non-distracted kind of environment.
In this case, also to like give them like this flexibility, for example, as in Estonia, to like give a space where you can also somehow, I don't know, fulfill a special need you have in the end. And I think that's also the strength of this, which is different also from my education, because as you say, if you like have to learn something, and if you don't want to be distracted because you have to focus on these things, and probably if you like in a younger age want to find out what you also want to do, and if you are actually, it's also very important to have like the teachers who are, I mean, as people who are using these technologies, or who are like somehow analyzing the movement in these different zones. For example, if you're like a more of an entertainer, let's say, most of the time you will be like in the space where you have like social contact with others. Yeah, somehow also about the analysis maybe, which of course in these Chinese schools it's completely lost, because like it doesn't matter what you learn, probably in the end you just have to be efficient and like be good at it and be the best in it. That's also like what one kid said, like in the end, that it's like, yeah, I mean, you're like super like under pressure all the time.
Yeah.
That's
This border for me it seems really really small, and when you really can do good stuff with AI, and they also mention a lot of so nice things about equality, and finally you have the opportunity to personalize your workflow, and including a lot more of people. And do you think it works like that?
I mean, I think that to some degree, probably connectivity and kind of interactivity, it's a good kind of step forward into education spaces, right? Because we all do it anyway, especially in the architecture schools. For example, our schools on Technical University in Munich, we have a building which was originally built at the beginning of the 20th, early 20th century, and then rebuilt again exactly as it was, right? And so it was not originally intended for use of such media, such different amounts of media, right? Especially digital media. But, and you can feel that, right? You feel the lack of interactivity and connectivity in our space that we are working in daily. And so I think as architecture students, being aware of your own spaces and what you lack in them is a starting point for making a design argument, right? And so I would say that, yeah, I think that the digital tools needs also need to be spatialized and need to be kind of humanized above all. So humanization of technology is something that needs to also develop hand in hand and a different speed maybe than the way that now digital tools are developing.
I don't know. It's interesting how could we achieve that, because in a way I feel we can't slow down the big tech developing, and human is always focused on finding the easiest tools to work less. But yeah, I also somehow feel that we have this really fast tempo, and in the meantime we also have the risk of losing the context. In a way, when you talked about our space here, there are a lot of downsides that this building can't give us as modern students with modern wants of socializing and technology, but in the same time, it has context and story. And sometimes I'm also afraid that those spaces that really have been, I don't know, fast enough to adapt they lack also some of those smart classrooms. They lack any context at all because you can create everything on your own and it's new all the time again.
So also as an architectural issue.
Yeah. The lack of context as such.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at least for schools that are built newly, I think a lot of architects are thinking about making like it should be as flexible as possible. I mean, probably we can say also this room here is actually quite, I don't know, it can be used also for a smart school or for a smart school or for a flipped classroom. And like tomorrow it's a examination classroom, and today's we're like here on a big table discussing these themes. I don't know, probably there are like other architectural typologies or buildings where it doesn't work very good.
I think like what I'm thinking about, for me, there's two things, like the GPT chatbot is also connected to that issue of it's not easy to measure what we really learn nowadays because everything is there's so many options that you can do your like homework or such things or essays so fast that you can't really prove and you don't really get into the topic on what you really like informing yourself and others about. And then there's also the thing about the wide range of media or items you can use. So I think what would be probably the most important part for classrooms or spaces, if they use digital things, is to create something that people want to go there or prefer to go there and not do it from home.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because this is the thing that actually is a risk.
Yeah, I think that's the risk we're facing, that everyone is doing something and we don't connect anymore on this like level of just physical interaction.
And I think while the pandemic, for example, where we were not able to meet in physical places, like actually get together, it became really clear that this is necessary and everyone's longing for it. And that's the impression I got, that this kind of, yeah, definitely, it kind of highlighted the importance of getting together and having like a place where you could go and meet others. So I think even if we have the opportunity or the means to become more and more digital, the relevance of a physical place where you can come and meet and get together will still always be important.
Yeah, we also need to think about that we need to use the space we already have, right?
I think that's also very important.
And that's a bit of a critique with the Estonian approach, because they are now so focused on this, having this marketing story about digital and good education, and they are really building mostly new buildings for all the schools.
So are they doing with the old schools?
They just throw them away, and build new ones. And the motivation is that this is so important, like the education is the goal, and for that we can demolish the existing.
Yeah.
But I feel it also contains a lot of duality.
I mean, for example, also the Venture Lab where your work is also kind of, I don't know, reused as a different kind of room.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's also working if it's curated in the right ways.
Yeah. I mean, that's also the beauty with those old structures, isn't it? That you have the ceiling heights and stuff so that they can be flexible, but not in a probably not as in a planned way as they do it now, but it's just they have those attributes like the proportions and just wide high ceiling rooms. Of course you can use them for embedding.
A lot of newly built educational spaces, whether it's in university. I mean, we have the example with Garching, for example, which is this new campus just built nearby the Munich airport. And it's a science city. I mean, a lot of these places resemble corporate campuses, right? And that's for a very good reason, because they emulate what we do in education with what you're expected to do after you graduate, right? Namely, work in a big tech corporation, for example, in that case, if you're working in engineering departments or physics departments or whatnot. But I think we as architects are a bit more complicated than that, right? So it's not clear whether you're gonna end up working in a museum or architecture office, or you're gonna start your own startup, or you're gonna, open, create your own NGO or create your own office. So there are many different ways to work as an architect. You can go to, and so I think important thing there is that one, reusing building stock, because it makes everything more complicated, and I think for a very good reason, because then there's a lot more built-in knowledge in these spaces, right? And then you have to confront this knowledge. You have to make it work for the 21st century, 22nd century, and so on. And so you have to really think in very architectural terms how you connect vast different temporalities together, which is very exciting, and also talks about ecological attitude towards reusing the building stock, which I absolutely am for, right?
Yeah, in that way, I like to, in a way, learn from university systems as it always have been, because it's more open in compared to schools for smaller children because of the security reasons and stuff. But universities mostly work more as platforms and getting together spaces for people from different topics, for different backgrounds, doing a lot of different stuff, not only students, professors, but also people visiting and giving lectures. And in a way, I also feel that maybe it's time to implement some of these ideas also for the education of smaller children somehow, to learn somehow from this way of openness. And we can also speculate that children nowadays are not smarter, but more used to, in a way, to this open world.
Do you think, because that's really an issue? I think I heard somewhere that we tend to get so overwhelmed with all the options and stuff that we have, that we feel like we have more on our tables, but actually, proven, we know less. We have less knowledge in special things.
Exactly. And that's also one point you mentioned some time ago, Uli, about this curating. And I really also wanted to bring this into this discussion, because we also talked a lot in this seminar about curating data spaces.
Right.
And can we learn something from this managing, getting data and curating them also for our education spaces?
I think there has to be curators and also kind of mediators for this issue, that you don't somehow you get a hold of knowledge, or a lot of knowledge, but you somehow can't grasp it. So in a way, obviously there have to be mediators, which are the teachers, so probably, and also these same knowledge curators, almost spatial curators, but also knowledge curators. So the job of the teacher probably will also change in a way.
Or there's a third party, or it's together with the children.
Yeah, in a collaborative sense.
In a participatory thing that you together decide and develop what different spaces should look like in order for the children to feel comfortable, or to feel like they can learn there.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of valid points actually. But I think to add to this, I think curating, thinking of professors and teachers and students as curators of knowledge, curators of data, curators of experience, it's a very interesting and, I would say, productive starting point. Because the moment you say that you are curator of the experience of this space, this education space, education experience, it means you have to look at the space, and you have to look at the curriculum, at the design of the education itself, and put it under scrutiny. So, are we educating the future architects to become corporate, successful corporate, let's say, soldiers or entrepreneurs, or are we then teaching them to become more critical thinkers? Are we expecting them to be artists and curators? These are all questions that that really reflect in the spaces and in the curriculum. So the curriculum, design of a curriculum is as equal as a design of space and design of learning experience. And I pretty much am really excited of this new figure of curator of spaces and education experiences that the professors could like reinvent themselves in. I find it very exciting.
Because it also makes you think much more about the end user in a way, right? When you need to curate something, exhibition as well, you are all the time in a need to think about the visitor. And in this way, it's a bit similar.
After that, you have then the partner. I mean, you would have your human partners of dialogue. I mean, you with your AI plus your human partners of dialogue. I think it would be like a a good combination. So I'm not saying that we should stop by just talking to the AI and then let the AI lead to what we want to be or what we want to get. But if you are with your AI and then you are in contact with other people in your classrooms with also their AI, and then you can communicate with them. I mean, that's, I think, a more productive way of doing the thing. I mean, I don't know. Okay. I mean, that's just like one was. But the point with the curatedness of this knowledge is that, I think, I mean, through this dialogue, through this classroom, which can include the AI and the people, and then basically the educator as the one who plays the main role, it would, I think, result into better one.
Talking about your AI as a friend, like, so as it's personal AI here.
No, because I'm a fan of Star Wars. Actually, no, and I think that's actually a good feature.
Can you say more about co-visiting Star Wars? Because I also, I know I have seen some episodes, but I'm not sure. I don't remember the connection with education.
There are like some depictions of classrooms in which like the robots kind of because I mean, of course, it's not like it was not intended to be like a critical to discuss things. It was just like because the robots know a lot of things, so it doesn't forget anything. So it kind of is useful to just tell the children whatever they need to know. Actually, it's just that, but the most in the classroom one, and it's actually normal format of classroom. Even there's a robot and there's a whiteboard.
That's the thing. That's the interesting thing that they still keep this really traditional classroom because that keeps you, as if you're watching the movie, to somehow understand that it's about school and education, and just like slowly introduce some small next futuristic steps into this existing space. Do you think it's a good way to do also, like in the position we are now with all the technology we have now, not like 50 years ago?
But somehow the robots in Star Wars, I mean, now it's a fiction, right? So I don't know if it's actually really going to be like that in the real life, if AI would be so developed, if we are going to reach at that point. Because these robots, they kind of know what is good and what is bad. So they kind of, they kind of can, I don't know, form and logic formulations of what is being good and what is being bad. But the most interesting thing is actually the interaction between man and non-man. I mean, sorry, human and non-human there, because it's like, as I said, they're thinking partner, insofar that you tell them what you want to know, and then they will tell you whatever they know, and they're basically kind of equipped with this whole radar thing. I mean, they know the whole map of the universe. They know how
Or access library as well.
open access library as well.
Yeah, the way.
Don't know if it is.
And then also you don't know.
You don't know if it is an open. It can also invent.
Yeah, maybe I'm just writing the data and giving the then
Just
to
you have
AI.
to leave it somehow.
But that is like the fiction, right? Because
Yeah, that was like that. I mean, if they are, let's say, somehow they have to be. It's like it's not infinite. Like it's fit. Like there is a knowledge generated, but it has to be generated by someone in order to store it somewhere.
I mean, that's also about us. About
Yeah, it's also about AI. I mean, AI it's the same thing. It's the stuff the AI knows. It's just until 2021 or something. It's like limited in a way. So that's also, for example, why I don't know.
Yeah, but I wouldn't judge AI by the capability of processing information because human is also like processing information.
Yeah, they can, of course. But it's like
Then that's the
line.
place where we as educators come in. And we need to guide somehow that person to sort which facts are related
But
with
the
one.
educator should include the AI, but not kind of be conservative and
No, also, like, I don't think that any one of us is being, like, so radical that we're just gonna stick in a classroom of 19th century and write by hand.
Well, because I mean, the AI is not giving you answers, or it's not a thinking thing. Kind of, it is, but it isn't.
No, it's not a big,
But it is deep. It's not packed. It is packed with information. There's somebody, a real life person that we don't know, that we don't like created an algorithm, and they fed it with a basic set of informations, and then like because it's end-to-end, right? You don't know what it's like processing in the middle. You don't know how it is developing. We can't always like understand the progress. So you don't know in which direction it's going. I mean, now the Facebook algorithms are already so complicated that the ones who created them don't know how they're working
Right.
anymore.
Actually, most of algorithms are AI. The creators, they know at the beginning how to configure them, and then it's on their own to develop in different directions depending on data you feed them. So they don't really know
Yeah, and
how they work, right?
that sounds dangerous.
It is,
You have a whole
which is also exciting. It's very.
It's
yeah.
exciting.
yes.
I think for me it's so interesting that this all, the fact that we are discussing this really weird interaction of like this split personality AI and expressing love towards the inquirer. It's quite like finding a space to talk about it, like we do now, for example. I find it very important because otherwise, if you don't contest this, and it just becomes a matter of fact without any possibility to be verified or put to scrutiny. And I think this is what education should be all about critical thinking and about creating spaces like this where we are sitting at right now that kind of allows us to discuss these very uncomfortable, weird topics and think through them as architects.
So maybe it's also very good to have spaces that are super analog.
Right. And I think, yeah, but then what you said, Rosa, also comes to this question. Like, I think we need to really make the spaces of education to kind of have qualities, also spatial architectural qualities that make you want to be here and work together and kind of talk to people face to face. Because I think there's nothing that can replace that. And so maybe just having white boxes is not enough anymore. White box plus interaction face to face plus an AI that maybe can be some annoying thing in the corner that feeds us always with information. And we say back that we maybe question information.
So this is one thing that AI is lacking, is this objectified nature, that it somehow starts to feel not so abstract, but it really is in a way interface that you can feel really like materialistically. Right?
And responsibility.
Yeah,
If
then we
I
all
say
start.
the AI will solve this problem, not me, that gives the AI all the agency and it gives me all the freedom to not deal with these messy subjects.
Mm.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
It's a very, very bad guy. Yeah. Right? Sorry, yeah. Like no responsibility is a very bad thing.
That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for listening. And of course, let us know if you would want to hear an extra episode, especially devoted to space fiction.
I am not a Star Wars fan, but I'm a Star Trek fan. So
Is it?
Star Trek is like this pose, it's like utopia where everything and like they're living in perfect union with the AI, right?